Hello, I'm Shabbir, the geography optional teacher at Wajiram. We have a series of videos here discussing how we could have best managed the 2018 geography optional paper. Uh, I've already discussed how we could have managed questions which are lengthy and maybe the marks not as befitting the content, and questions which are more straightforward, yet they required some bit of best writing. In this video, I'm discussing a couple of questions that required a bit more of thinking. These are not straight questions. Of course, this time, like I said, no question can be dismissed as outside the syllabus, but these questions require a bit more of thinking, a bit more of understanding of what you have read. And I would always encourage students to attempt such questions because it makes a huge impact on the marks that they score. And this year's paper has more questions from geographical thought. The section B is almost entirely geographical thought, bearing a couple of questions here and there. So I'm discussing those type of questions that require thinking, and incidentally, they also are from geographical thought. So I'm starting with question number 5A, section B, paper 1. Geography is a contested, multi-paradigmic discipline with a strong Eurocentricity that has only recently been challenged. Comment. Now, in this question, a couple of key important words were that geography has been contested. When I use the word contested, we're talking about the debates in geography, the dichotomies and dualisms. Okay, you should have been aware of that. Okay. Then it says geography is multi-paradigmic, as in the themes that became the dominant themes, the ideas that influenced geography for a substantial length of time and geographers. So geography has been multi-paradigmic, as in there have been many schools of thought which have been the dominant themes in geography. And then it says that geography had a very strong Eurocentric approach until recently. Okay, and of course, I hope you have not missed out another key word, which was comment. When a question is phrased with the word comment, you are not supposed to explain the statement, but comment implies you are supposed to give your opinion. You may either disagree with this or you may choose to agree with this, but it should be what you think and not simply explain what the question, the phrase means. So this is a bit more of evaluative thing. You can agree, you can disagree, but given the type of questions thought has, there's not much scope to disagree here. Okay. But you can have some points where you can say, okay, the shift is not really recent. The shift has happened for quite some time. But then say, yes, a lot of new things are recent, but it has not always been Eurocentric the way the centric claims. You can agree, you can debate on those aspects. But by and large, please understand what this word comment means. Now, geography has been contested. The contest in geography has been on three issues. Should geography be special geography with its regional approach, or should geography be general geography and take it towards quantification, generalization, making laws? That has been one debate. The contest has also been on physical versus human geography debate. The contest has also been on the methods. The methods, debates on positivism, methods which are based on empiricism, or the methods which are more descriptive. You can have a debate on this. Don't elaborate too much here, because all of this you have to write within the marks is 10 marks. You cannot explain this and elaborate this. So if I divide the answer into maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs, the first paragraph, okay, could be on geography has had many dichotomies and dualisms. The debates have been on, the more popular debates have been on spatial versus regional and physical versus human, the methods. We also had debates on determinism versus possibilism. You just have to mention them and give a sense that this has been the underlying debates in geography. With this, you should have shifted directly by the second or third paragraph, you should have shifted directly towards how geography has been multi-paradigm, where geography has shifted itself, focusing on some aspects more than the others, and many times more than one paradigms have coexisted. Like if you look at the trends after Humboldt and Ritter, we have had 3-4 paradigms dominating. The regional aspect was along with the issues of determinism. When you look at the development of QR, the QR coexisted with some of the critical phases also. For this, you had to know something called as Kuhn's paradigm phases. Ideally, the two most important paradigms in geography, one was Ratzel's determinism, and the second very important paradigm was the quantitative revolution. And a third paradigm that was coinciding with the trend of what's called as postmodernism, where you are questioning positivism, a trend called as the culture turn. So without explaining too much, you just have to mention, yes, geography has been multi-paradigm, and these three should have been mentioned very specifically. So with the first and the second, I can see probably 2 or 3 paragraphs you have handled. Then you come towards the debates on whether geography was Eurocentric. Yes, if you look at the development of geography since the pre-classical phase, which is Humboldt, Ritter, you talk about, Varenius, we talk about Kant, Humboldt, Ritter, the whole German school, the whole possibilism school, all of that was Eurocentric. And the shift of geography towards America started with the quantitative revolution. Now, this is a big debate. Some would see American geography as extension of European concepts itself. Like Ellen Semple is extension of Ratzel's ideas. The ideas of quantification was also influenced by the positivism that we had in the French school. Positivism that influenced even Humboldt's ideas. So it's debatable if Europe is just Europe or Europe includes Americas also. But having said that, geography did move out into the Anglo-American or in the American school. We have the Chicago school, we have the Berkeley school. You could have mentioned the works of urban geography, the works of inequalities. But the actual recent turn is what is called as the environmentalism, the post-colonialism, where the focus is now on developing countries, the focus is on disparities. The radical geography onwards, the shift has been more beyond Europe. So this is something you need not agree at the first go. You can say, yes, it looks like, but the fact is the shift has started right from Americas. So I can see probably not more than 2 paragraphs here. Like I said, 2 paragraphs in discussing the Eurocentric, or was it a shift from that recently? In all, if I'm looking at a 2-page answer, you cannot write more than 5 paragraphs. So that's approximately how you can divide. 2 or 3 paragraphs for the debates and the paradigm, another 2 paragraphs for Eurocentric. So this question required lot of strong content understanding and plus how you maneuver across issues. And the tool which is using schematics would have been very helpful here. Like while tracing Eurocentrism, you would have actually mentioned the contributors, the schools, and then you could have shown the shift towards Anglo-America, while discussing postmodernism, you can show the shift towards developing countries also, because geography, a big content geography is also development geography, and that's where the shift could have been again mentioned. So this is 5A, a tricky question that required thought. The second question that I would like to discuss is question number 6A, which is areal differentiation has provided the theoretical justification for studying regions and regional geography. So you again have 4 important words here. One is areal differentiation. The second word is it has given justification. It's like areal differentiation is the basis of why some other ideas came up. Areal differentiation proved the importance of why geography had to move in some ways. So in that sense, that it was the theoretical justification for studying regions and regional geography. So areal differentiation, that it was providing the justification, it adds credibility to study of regions and regional geography. And the fourth important word again was comment. Now this is a 20-mark question, so you have more space to maneuver, unlike the first one, which was actually a tough question to handle in the words. Now in a 20-mark question, you can afford to go to write about 3 or 4 pages, depending on how much space you have. So if I divide your answer, you could have a brief discussion on areal differentiation, Hartshorne, what he said, descriptive method, positivist method. Hartshorne tries to emphasize the chorological approach, all within one paragraph, and how it was discredited by QR. And then you move on towards that it was Hartshorne's descriptive approach that ultimately starts reviving the focus on small-scale studies, focus on individuals, focus on the behavioral methods and approach. So areal differentiation as a regional approach, we can see it reviving and getting justified in the post-QR phase, but do not agree entirely on that areal differentiation is the basis of all the regional studies in geography. See, if I discuss regional studies, we broadly have the regional approach of the time of Varenius and Kant. We have the regional approach of the times of Ratzel and Vidal. We had the regional approach of the times of areal differentiation, which was essentially trying to revive the Varenius paradigm, okay, and Kantian paradigm of chorology. And we also have the regional approach after the behavioral revolution. Now, areal differentiation justifies the concept of regions in the Kantian paradigm. Okay. Areal differentiation to some extent also justifies Ratzel's and Vidal's approach, where man and environment are not to be separated. That geography is the study of integration and the interrelationships of the environment, which includes man and environment. So yes, in that sense, areal differentiation is reaffirming this, but this, he asserted, should be positivist. This, he asserted, should not be about generalizations. Areal differentiation's contribution to regions approach is this one, that areal differentiation is reviving chorology. Areal differentiation emphasizes the integration within the regions, which you can write as regional synthesis also. But it emphasized the geography has to be positivist and geography also has to ignore and not move towards generalizations. But if I look at the regional approach from the humanistic point of view, a regional approach in structuralism, the regional approach in post-colonial geography, the regional approach in feminist geography, now this is definitely not areal differentiation. In fact, these studies, which were humanistic in nature, they talked about solving problems, they talked about addressing structuralism, addressing the processes and the deep imperatives. They are very anti-positivist. The whole postmodernism is actually anti-positivism. So that type of regional geography is definitely not the positivism of Hartshorne. So you do not have to say that areal differentiation covers the entire range of regional geography and regions concept in geography. That's why the word comment is very important in addressing this question. My guess, most would not have done this. Most would have simply explained what areal differentiation is, and at best would have said areal differentiation is regional geography, and they would have stopped. They would not have covered or compared how it influenced or it didn't influence. I remember in one of the commentaries in Geographical Thought, it very specifically mentions that the beginnings of a humanistic approach should not be seen as revival of areal differentiation of Hartshorne. The beginnings of anti-positivism is not reviving areal differentiation. It's altogether another approach. But of course, the scale of studying being region, it is still a regional approach. So that's a tricky one that required understanding. Question number 6A. The next question we're discussing is 7C. Now, the keywords in this question are, we have to elaborate on the influence of Marxist philosophy. Okay, so influence of Marxist philosophy, and we have to outline the key themes addressed by Marxist geographers. What were the key themes addressed by Marxist philosophers? And the question is asking you to elaborate, so not really comment, okay, elaborate, explain it. These two things, the influence of Marx and the themes from them, they're related. So do not treat them to be separate, but you can always have one table where you list down what kind of influence, and that influence gives you what theme in geography. Okay, you can elaborate what type of influence and what type of themes. So you can do this. Otherwise, treat the two parts of the question, okay, and write the answer as a seamless write-up. Now, my guess, many of you probably would have explained Marxism, or you would have explained the radical geography, how Marxist approach starts in geography. Now, this is not what the question was. The influence of Marxist approach definitely started during the radical revolution. You have tell us the influences was on why patterns develop. The influence was on identifying, okay, the agencies that perpetuate the patterns. The influence was on solutions which were anti-capitalism. These are the three areas where Marxism is influencing. Why the patterns develop? Okay, why the patterns, the answers were sought in political processes. Identifying the agencies were the state, the agencies were the capitalists, and the solutions that they offered was revolutionary, okay, and violent changes, which was radical changes. This was the influence of Marx. So, and the themes that they addressed was, they addressed the theme called inequality. They addressed themes of population growth. They addressed themes related to resource ownership. A very important school that developed from Marxist was the school of thought of structuralism. It is not directly Marxist, but it does talk about how the reasons of these issues are in the processes and also in the deeper thinking and imperatives. Now, when you talk about population growth, you talk about the Marxian theory, where population is seen as a resource. When you talk about inequalities, you're talking about the labor class and how that creates segregation of urban systems. If you remember, we have the works of William Bunge, who talks about ghettoism, who talks about racism, and how this became a very important theme while discussing inequalities. So essentially, again, this question is not a straight question on what is Marxism and its influence. The question is demanding that you have to understand where all Marxism had found its influence. I forget one more point. One of the important themes of Marx's approach was also environmentalism, where environmental concerns were analyzed from the perspective of inequalities also. How inequalities create problems of soil problem, water problem, and so on. So I hope this discussion helped you understand the question. Please watch the next videos too, which will discuss some other aspects of how you could have answered the paper better.